Hey guys! Today I'll be showing you how to roller set your hair from start to finish. For reference, this is what my hair looks like if I just let it air dry. If you want to avoid that look and are going for something more like this, I think this video will be well worth your time. I'm not one of those relaxed girls who can go without heat or styling and still have straight hair, so I roller set my hair to get a smooth, yet bouncy and voluminous style. Let's begin with the things we will need. We will need magnetic rollers. I can never find these at Sally's, but any beauty supply store that's not a chain will usually have them. I'm going to use the purple and gray sizes today, but at this length I can use black in spots where my hair is longer and green around the hairline where my hair is shorter as a last resort if a larger roller won't fit the space on my head. The larger black rollers will give me a faster dry and a looser curl. Get at least one pack each of 2 different size rollers to start out and see what works for you. Or if you really don't know what size and want something affordable, get an assorted pack from Conair, Goody, or a brand like that from the drugstore, or someplace like Target. Next, you'll need clips. You can get these clips at beauty supply stores. You want the ones called slide-in clips or something to that effect. Notice how the slide-in clips have a space at the back. These other ones don't have that space, they simply have the clamp. As opposed to these ones that are used for pin curls and things of that nature, the right clips actually slide into the rollers so that the ends are not sticking out, taking up real estate on your head that you will later need. We will need something for detangling, like a wide tooth comb. Also, we need a fine tooth comb to smooth the hair thoroughly before rolling it up. Mine is Diane brand and I love it. It's very sturdy and does not snag my hair. You also need a spray bottle. This is as essential as the rollers are for a silky roller set in my opinion. You have to keep your hair saturated until it's rolled to avoid frizz in your finished style. I fill mine with purified water because chlorine and other impurities can really dry out your hair. I actually have a purifying shower head for when I wash my hair as well, but I digress. You will need a hooded dryer, and we're going to talk more about this later on. I have a professional dryer, which is not necessary, but it does make this process go a lot more smoothly. Also, we will need a hairnet, and we'll get back to this a little bit later. We'll start by applying serum and detangling the hair. I'm using Oro Fluido and Redken Smooth Down Heat Glide, the latter of which is discontinued unfortunately. I detangle my entire head with a wide tooth comb, working from the ends of my hair upwards to minimize breakage. Remember, any detangling that isn't done now will have to be done later when working with smaller sections, so take your time. Next, I use a roller to help me determine the size of my middle section. I section my hair into 3 sections, a left section, a right section, and a mohawk style section down the middle. We begin the roller set with the middle section. Use the roller to help determine the width and length of your section. Each section should have roughly 1 inch to 1.5 inches of hair. As you practice roller setting, it will become clear when a section is too large. It will sort of look like hair is being pulled from 2 different areas of your head, which is not what we want. For the first 1 or 2 rollers, I part my hair and let it hang down over my face. Then place the roller on top of the hair and roll upwards. This method prevents you placing your first roller too far back on your head, which creates a domino effect on your other rollers. This may result in the final roller of your mohawk section resting too low on your neck, making it difficult to fit under the dryer and dry properly later on. So roll the first roller or 2 from your face upwards. If you have roller set before, hopefully you know what I mean. Okay, I really can't stress this next point enough. These rollers are often called magnetic rollers. Your wet hair should stick to them like a magnet. Saturate your hair with water and completely smooth it out with a fine-tooth comb before rolling it up. The water is to knock out any frizz. Once dry, your hair will only be as smooth as it is when applying it to the roller while wet. Although it will set the style, the heat from the dryer later on will not straighten your hair. Sometimes, you may not feel like taking the time to get each section perfectly smooth, but you have to smooth out any curl that you do not want to see later in your finished dry style. In other words, if you don't start with smoothed out hair while wet, accept that frizz will be present in your finished style. So, depending on your hair type and how fragile it is, you want to apply varying degrees of tension as you roll the hair. I don't apply much tension in the front where my curl is looser and my hair straightens easily. But basically, your roller should not flop around on your head. After clipping into place, your roller should remain in place even with bending or light head shaking. Continue to roll the middle section, taking small subsections. This process can seem tedious, especially at first, I know. But resist the temptation to make your sections larger because that will result in more layers of hair being wrapped around each roller, which will, in turn, increase drying time. Your hair needs to be 100% dry before removing the rollers to prevent frizz, so we do not want to increase drying time. So use rollers that are large enough for your sections and don't take sections that are too large. See how I brought the hair forward towards my face and then rolled backward as much as I can? That's just to keep the rollers forward so they don't hang too low on my neck as mentioned earlier, and this also helps with the tension I just mentioned. Be sure to comb out the roots all the way through to the ends. Whatever you want to come out straight, you need to smooth now. I'm just securing each roller with 2 clips as I move down, and here we go, I'm done with my mohawk section. Notice how it's not too low down on my neck. Let's move on to the side sections. For the sides of my head, I section off a small section in the front, then work with the more back part first. Although working with the front first may seem like the natural thing to do, I find that if you roll the front first, it gets in the way of reaching the back when doing your own hair. Trust me, try starting with the back first. We'll come back to that front row later on. So after saturating and smoothing the hair, start your first section small, place the roller on your ends and roll upwards. Again, we want to start the rollers nice and high on the head to avoid running out of real estate on our head when we get to the final rollers near the bottom. So I'm going to work through these sections. I vary a bit, but I usually make 3 rows on each of the side sections. So you can say that here on the left side, I have the middle row almost done now, and now I'm going to start on the front row. That middle row is sort of what tends to get blocked if you do the front row first, I've found. But everyone has different head shapes, so you may need to experiment to find what works best for you. I placed the front rollers carefully to avoid putting too much tension on my naturally thinner edges near my hairline. My rolling the hair as shown minimizes tension on this area by finding a place to pin a more dense section of hair versus placing a lot of tension on a very fine section of hair. I wasn't satisfied with that roll, but I left it for now since it was already done and out of my face. I'm going to carry on with the middle row, then move on to a back row, and come back to the front and re-roll that one later on. It's important to use a larger roller at the bottom of the hair because if you're using an overhead dryer, that section of hair is furthest from the heat source, so it tends to be reluctant to dry. If you can fit one, try using a larger roller if your hair has long layers on the bottom like mine does. Okay, so we're about 2/3 done now. I'm just going to repeat on the other side. Stop and turn on your hooded dryer now. It's not like a handheld blow dryer that's immediately hot. It takes some time to heat up. So I have the Pibbs Quick Dry 514. I bought it years ago when I decided to start doing my own roller sets. The investment was well worth it, although it seems that the price has gone up over the years. Technically, a hooded dryer is optional because some people air dry. To me, that just takes way too long, over 7 hours on my hair. More affordable tabletop hooded dryers will work, but I personally don't know anyone who can fit a head full of rollers under them, so usually your crown will dry much before the lower parts of your hair. Your entire head fits under this sort of see-through gray part. And to me, that's the most special part about the Pibbs. That and it's fully adjustable, so you can fit pretty much any chair under this. I personally never got great results until I got my Pibbs. I'm just not patient enough. My hair always took way too long to dry with my cheap golden hot dryer. I had hot spots, I had cool spots. So I'm not telling you to go out and spend hundreds on a hair dryer. But if you are serious about roller setting becoming part of your routine, consider investing in a Pibbs or a well-rated knockoff. One more thing is that the Pibbs also has amazing airflow, and that helps your hair dry faster. There are actually blades, like a fan, up near the motor. So along with the shape where your head is actually going into that little compartment, it's enclosed and you've got a fan running. It just creates this amazing airflow and it helps your hair dry faster. So with the Pibbs dryer, a hairnet is especially important because there's actually a fan up near the motor with blades and everything. Tie your hair down with a hairnet to help the rollers stay in place and to avoid any loose strands blowing up into the blades. It's unlikely, but I thought I'd mention it since it's a warning on the Pibbs instructions. I think my Pibbs actually came with this exact hairnet, although I usually use the triangular ones that you can just tie up. So right now I'm going to saturate the remaining side with water and just repeat the steps that I did on the left side. I'm just going to redo that roller I wasn't satisfied with on the left side. And here's the finished look with a head full of rollers. We're done, guys! Put on your hairnet and we are ready to dry. Protective ear covers are optional and can be found at the beauty supply store. They're usually plastic. If any metal clips are resting on your ear, readjust the clips or use the ear protectors or paper towel to protect you from that hot metal. The hot metal can definitely burn your ear. It happened to me in a professional salon. So just make sure no hot metal will be resting against your ears. For the size of the rollers I use today, I sit under the dryer for about 55 minutes at 55 degrees. When my hair is dry, I let my hair cool for 5 to 10 minutes to set the style, then remove the rollers. Although you can choose to keep your hair curly, I tend to brush out my curls with a Denman brush, leaving me with straight hair and bouncy flipped ends. Here I'm showing you guys how my hair is smooth all the way to the ends because of how I smooth my saturated hair onto the roller with my fingers. Okay, so this last step is optional, but I am partial to flat ironing my roots. Stay with me here, don't go running for the hills. Oh, this was supposed to be a heatless. It's okay. So this is my logic on it. The nearer I am to my last relaxer, the less I need to do this step. But even with a fresh relaxer, all that pinning can make these funny little dents in your hair. Some people straighten these dents or any unrelaxed curly roots out with a blow dryer, often a hellishly hot one, and the technique is often known as a Dominican blowout. I'm not a huge fan. I think it's okay to flat iron your roots as they are such a young part of your hair. You're not putting the older parts of your hair through the extreme heat of a flat iron, and as your roots constantly grow out, within a couple of months, you won't even be applying heat to the same hair anymore. I hope that makes sense. So that's it. Now you know the basics of roller setting. Here are some key points to be aware of. The larger the roller, the looser the curl. The larger the roller, the quicker the drying time, since there are less layers of wet hair wrapped around each roller. Experiment with different roller sizes to find what works best for you, your desired style, and drying time. Some people recommend air drying if you don't have an overhead hair dryer. I don't recommend air drying. I've tried it before and air dried for over 7 hours, still to find that some hair was damp. Removing the rollers from the hair before it is completely dry will negate much of your hard work. Allow the hair to fully dry. If you check a section and it is not dry, re-roll your hair as smoothly as possible and get back under the dryer. If not specifically a Pibbs dryer, try to get a dryer that is on a stand and has a hood that fits all your rollers under the airflow. If you don't have something like the Pibbs and you can't fit all your hair under the dryer, try drying what you can, then manually drying damp hair while still rolled with your regular handheld blow dryer. Take your time and go through each step with care. Hair is very fragile when wet. Don't detangle roughly or roll the rollers too tightly. I know my video seems like a lot of information, but I think it will make sense as you put the tips into practice. Give it a try and let me know how it turns out. Take your time and follow the steps. With some practice, your bouncy, beautiful results will be worth the effort, and your hair will stay straight until your next wash as long as you wrap it at night. I worked super duper uber hard on this video, so please thumbs up if you found it informative. Your likes help people see that the video is worth their time to watch, and when you put hours into making a video, you really want it to be seen. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye!